The British Museum, Sub-Basement 3, Department of Anomalous Antiquities. My name is Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft, Senior Archivist, Custodian of Restricted Collections. What you are about to hear has been recovered from sealed files, letters, journals, and testimonies once thought too disturbing for public record. Every statement you hear is drawn from Britain's forgotten centuries, the whispered history that hides between faith and fear. These are the National Occult Archives, filed, preserved, never closed. Case File NOA1916F. Classification: Military Correspondence. Date of statement: 14th July 1916. Location: near the Somme, France Forward Operating Field Hospital. Author: Reverend Thomas Willoughby, Chaplain 2nd Class, Royal Army Chaplains Department. Letter to the Bishop of Winchester. My Lord, I write not as an officer, but as a man who no longer trusts the veil between life and death. It was the night of the 13th when the bombardment ceased for the first time in 5 days. The ward tents were lit by oil lamps that flickered with every passing gust. I was reading over Private Lang's last rites when Nurse Cowan cried out she saw movement beyond the canvas. I stepped outside. The trenches were silent. No orders, no shelling, only the smell, that thick, coppery stench that lingers after the living are gone. Then came a whisper, low and near my ear, "Not yet." At first I thought it one of the men delirious, but the sound carried no breath, no body. It seemed to come from all around, as if the very ground spoke. I returned to the tent. Lang's bed was empty. The cot was folded neatly, his tags placed atop the pillow. Nurse Cowan swore she'd turned away for only a moment. We searched the trench lines until dawn. No sign. The next day, a stretcher was brought in from the field. 3 men lost to artillery. Among them was Private Lang, his wounds fresh, his eyes open. His body was still warm. When I leaned close to close his eyelids, he whispered again, "You came too soon." I can no longer tell if my prayers reach heaven or echo back from the soil. Should this letter find its way to London, I ask it be sealed, for I fear what follows will not rest in France. Yours in Christ, Reverend Thomas Willoughby, Chaplain, 2nd Class, 2nd Battalion, Hampshire Regiment. Archivist's Note, Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Original correspondence retrieved from the estate of Bishop Richard Talbot, Winchester Cathedral Archives, 1952. No record of Reverend Willoughby exists beyond August 1916. His personal Bible, water-stained and incomplete, was discovered in a trench excavation near Thiepval in 1997. Entry NOA 1916F remains restricted to clerical review. End of file. Case File NOA 1479C. Classification: Monastic Chronicle Fragment. Date of statement: 3rd March 1479. Location: St. Cuthbert's Abbey, Northumberland. Author: Brother Anselm of Lindisfarne, scribe to the abbot. Translated statement: To whosoever reads, I set down this testimony, so that the sin of silence be not upon me. For 7 nights the bells of our abbey tolled at none but the darkest hour. No hand drew their ropes. The novices swore the tower was empty, yet the sound carried clear over the moors. On the 8th night I kept vigil in the belfry with Brother Matthias. The wind clawed through the slats, and the sea's roar came hollow from below. Near the turning of the hour, Matthias clutched my arm and pointed. A shadow moved where no torch burned. It took the form of a monk, Hood drawn, the habit black, though ours are grey, he climbed the stair without sound. I called to him, asking his name. He raised his head, there was naught beneath the cowl but a glimmer, as of moonlight upon water. The bell began to swing. Neither of us touched it. It struck thrice. Each peal sent dust raining from the rafters, and made my heart hammer as though echoing its rhythm. Then all fell still. At dawn, Abbot Wilfred ordered the bell silenced and sealed. When we opened its mouth, inside lay a small stone, smooth and wet as if from the sea. Carved upon it, the letters IACOBUS, the name of the brother drowned 3 winters past when crossing to Holy Island. The abbot cast the stone into the tide, yet that night the bells rang once more, though the ropes were bound fast. Written by my own hand, Brother Anselm of Lindisfarne, St. Cuthbert's Abbey, Northumberland, 3 March 1479. Archivist's Note, Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. Recovered from a damaged vellum codex purchased at auction, 1894. Traces of sea salt within the parchment fibres confirm exposure to coastal moisture. A bell from St. Cuthbert's Abbey now resides in the British Museum. Corrosion patterns correspond to triple impact stress consistent with the account. Case File NOA 1479, C, active for theological review. End of file. Case File NOA 1827E. Classification: Private Correspondence, Ecclesiastical. Date of statement: 12th November 1827. Location: Parsonage House, St Andrews Parish, Somerset. Author: Mrs. Eleanor Whitcomb, wife of Reverend Josiah Whitcomb. Letter to Mrs. Lydia Fenton, Bath. My dearest friend, forgive this trembling hand. I scarce know whether to call it confession or plea. Since Michaelmas, my husband has been much occupied with the renovation of the church vestry. The old floor was torn up, revealing beneath it a void, a small stone vault sealed by lime and slate. The mason insisted it had been there since before the Reformation. Within they found a wooden box no larger than a prayer book, bound in lead and tied with black twine. My husband ordered it brought into his study to await the bishop's advice. That night he could not sleep for knocking sounds beneath the window. I told him it was rats. He said it was counting. The next morning I found him pale as linen, seated at his desk, the box open. Inside was a lock of hair, white as frost, and a folded parchment inscribed with words that looked like Latin but were not. He told me it was a confession, and that it must never be read aloud. Yet as he spoke, the house grew cold, and the candles shivered though no draught entered. That night I heard a voice at the stairhead whisper, "The debt is not forgiven." My husband rose and went down. I followed, though I dared not call out. In the study, the hearth was dead, and he stood before it as though listening. The box lay upon the coals, untouched by flame. By dawn, he had taken fever and spoke to no one. Before noon, he pressed my hand and said only, "Seal it again beneath God's floor." I did so with my own hands. The mason refused, claiming he'd heard a cry when last he struck the stone. The vestry now stands finished, the floor neat as any other, yet every Sunday I feel the boards shift faintly underfoot during the Lord's Prayer, as if something beneath stirs to the rhythm of the words. Your affectionate friend, Eleanor Whitcomb. Parsonage House, St Andrews Parish, 12 November 1827. Archivist's Note, Dr. Nathaniel Ashcroft. This letter was discovered among the personal effects of the late Canon Fenton Bath Diocese, 1911. No parish record of Reverend Josiah Whitcomb exists beyond 1828. The vestry flooring of Street Andrews was replaced in 1879, following unexplained subsidence. The site excavation report notes fragments of charred lead consistent with domestic ceiling material. Case file NOA1827E, archived under Clerical Domestic Incidents, Restricted Access. End of file. Case closed to public record. The original document remains sealed within the vaults of the British Museum. Further access requires written authorization or curiosity strong enough to ignore the warnings. End of file.